Okay, so let me start. Um, Hi, Sai. Jijo had to drop out last minute because of some personal reasons. Okay, so let me quickly run through what is the analysis of this particular CDC, and then I'll come back and take the questions. So if I look at overall, right? If I look at the this CDC versus what we saw as the overall CAT 2020 and CAT 2021 uh, scores, uh, I think there is a tremendous amount of 1 second. Okay, so if you look at the CDC 10 vis-a-vis what we find the scores of 2021 and 2020, if I look at the variation, it's almost the same, right? Very close to the same as far as the 99 percentile scores are concerned. And as we go on, just like we saw in CDC 9, we found that there's a slight divergence in terms of the scores being a little higher, right? In terms of at every percentile point, the actual score is a little higher than what um, the real CAT scores were. This could basically mean that probably about people have got 2 questions more right on an average across 97 till, I mean, if I go to 85 percentile. So this is again probably a two and a half, 2 questions right instead of getting uh, 2 to 3 questions right at this percentile. And the moment you go to a 80 percentile, what is a 48 has ended up becoming a 62. So, or if I compare it with last time, we are talking about probably about 3 questions, 3 to 5, 4 questions. It depends on, when I say the 3 questions, I'm also assuming that it's either a 3 question addition in your attempts, or you've got about 3 questions, um, maybe 3 mistakes less. So this is broadly the theme. So the CDC 10 in that perspective, basically we at the academic side, when we were trying to design the thing, we said that okay, we need to get 80 percentile. We would want people to believe that getting a 60 is not a really tough task. So personally, I mean, this is what we feel, that last 2 years, right, 2020 and 2021, right, cats have been a little different from the perspective of the COVID and COVID impact. But I think I definitely feel that um, when it comes to cat 2022, right, I believe the average scores, especially at the lower end, is going to go up, right? It is going to go up for sure. And this is I want you to believe, if somebody is getting 80, 85 percentile, I would want you to believe that uh, getting 15 questions is not good enough to get you a 80 percentile, right? I would want you to think that maybe I need to get about 20 questions right, um, to get a 80 percentile. Now when you get to the top, right, I don't think it will go significantly more than your 110. So if you look at this 107, so this is the belief in which this mock has been designed, keeping in mind that in the last couple of mocks we have kind of looked at it and said that we should try to give this sense of confidence to the student that a 60 is definitely a possible, and trust me, I think it is going to be possible in cat 2022. I mean, you will agree with me once the cat is over. Now if we look at broadly the percentile base, right, CDC 10, we see that the 80 percentile, it's gone up. So this drop, if you look at it, it's been a little more flatter year, whereas in the actual cats over the last 2 years, this has been a little more steeper. So what you see is there's a greater divergence, right, at the lower scores than at the top scores. Top, you look at the 6 7 percentile, I don't think there's much of a difference. So this is fundamentally telling us that people are also better prepared, right, better prepared to take on to cat 2022 when compared to cat 2021. So I will kind of do a proxy for Gijo here and talk about VARC. VARC, if you look at this particular mock, right, I've also gone through the passages, right, though I've not solved it the way Gijo would have done. Gijo has actually recorded the videos. Maybe it might be a good thing for you to check it out on that. If you look at the broad scores that we have, we see that again the same thing getting reflected, that at the 99.5 percentile scores we are somewhere between the cat 2020 and cat 2021. We have all fallen in between this. The same has been true here, and as you get closer, right, to the 97 percentile, you see that this scores are, and then this is subsequently falling much steeper than this. So what does this indicate? This indicates that, I mean, it could indicate two things. One, generally the paper has been easier in terms of one easier question compared to what's been there in cat 21, or I mean, uh, essentially both 20 and 21, which is telling me that maybe I'm getting one question extra, right, which is right compared to what I would have got in 2020 and 2021. And this is, I mean when people make mistakes, right, and I think this is one thing you must keep in mind, that one question wrong, right, instead of getting it right means 4 marks, and that could actually make a significant difference in your percentile. So you got to be a little more careful there. So if you look at the question wise analysis, uh, the general reading levels of this has been pretty okay, right? If you look at the attempts have been in the high 80s and 90s. So if you look at this entire thing, the lowest attempt for verbal ability has been around 70 75%. If I look at these two passages out here, the passage on semantics and the passage on modern you know calendars and all of that, you find that in both of them the reading has been a little easier, right? And of course this also has been pretty rewarding in terms of the accuracy vis-a-vis what you have as your percent attempts. Um, it, it's been a little lesser when it comes to the second one, because there's too lot of detailing in this, the calendar wala passage. And however, I think there's a the third passage is something categorization of humans, right? And the fourth one probably because it has got a little more scientific basis here. You might find that this passage for a lot of people would have been a little more easier. So in terms of attempts, I think it is more or less in sync with what we thought would be the attempts. The third passage would have far fewer attempts compared to the others. um, Now, if we look at uh, people who have attempted these two passages, right, and probably this one, maybe I think if I were you, I would have probably said, okay, let me attempt VA first. VA, for some reason, the accuracy has been a little lower than what we thought it would be, right? So, uh, in terms of the 17 to 24, the verbal ability questions, it could have been a little better than what it ended up becoming. So this is as far as the DILR. Now, when I come to DILR section, DILR you see is absolutely bang on, right? And uh, and again, I'm saying the same thing. When we look at DILR and Quant together, I mean, if I were to look at Quant and DILR together, the if I if we look at the lower percentiles, I'm generally sensing by looking at this that there's a little better preparedness for people in the 80s and 70s percentile. Hence at the lower percentile it was not as ridiculously low as it was in the previous case, and I don't think 80% you will get at 15 marks, right? uh, 5 marks में शायद 5 questions right में शायद 80% नहीं आएगा, because we have got fewer questions. Hence my expectation is your scores will be somewhere around. So as a while designing this, we said that together my 80 percentile must be around 40s. My 85 percentile in quant and DI should be around 45s, and 90 percentile we said we must try to get around 50s, right? And then the 95 percentile onwards. So if I look at the 95 percentile, we said that is there a can a guy get 95 percentile together? If I look at both quant and DI together, around 60s. So in terms of the what would you say, the aggregated scores of DILR and this, I think this is probably as we expected, right? And the beautiful thing about this DILR, I think, is it didn't have too many tough questions. It didn't have. So there, but at the same time, there was a. So if I look at the first, the I think the easiest was obviously the third, and I can see that everybody has cracked this. This has been the savior for a lot of people. For those who were a little okay with the number theory part, I think the first, the set having numbers should have been fairly easy to do, right? So we're talking about, uh, then we have the second set, which is the set, which is the Airtel, Geo, that subscriber wala. That probably, I mean, if you, I mean, that probably would have been my last choice while doing this, right? The first choice was obviously the one regarding the test papers. The second would have been the numbers, or even the last one. I think last one, which is a wildlife park, some program had be written to give you the best deals, right? I think that was also something that checked your number skills on how do you evaluate optimum costs, right? So if I were to do it, I would have probably done uh, set 3 first, then my numbers is okay, or it could have been 1 or 4, right? And then 2 definitely would have been the one, the 6 setter one we have. Now here in this set, we looked at one possibility. Okay, so it should have actually looked at it like this. So we created, I mean, we deliberately said that is it possible that we think of a 5 and 5 wala set? It's just one of the variations that we said that if I get a 4 6 5 5, or what if you get a 4 4 4 4 4, right? We still don't know what is the uh, format that you're going to get, but 4 6 4 6 have been quite disastrous in the last 2 years, because I think it squeezes out the choice that you have. But the moment if you go to a 4 4 4 4 4, probably you'll have more choice. Hence your mental makeup should be कि अच्छा शायद इस पेपर में थोड़ा ज्यादा होगा. So we said that we are going to do a little bit of variations in couple of your countdowns and also in your prime mocks, and you will see that happening over the next I mean few mocks that you have. So I think this is very much in sync with what we thought it is going to be. The attempts here has been good, right? The attempts here has been good. These two probably were the easiest, and then this attempts have been good. I mean, for those who are comfortable with quant, I think they would have cracked this. So in my view, if somebody was extremely comfortable with quant, so this 5 questions out here and this 4 questions out here should have been there for the taking. एंड ये जो 4 क्वेश्चंस है और यहाँ पे जो 5 क्वेश्चंस है, इसमें मेरे ख्याल से 2-3 तो हो ही जाएंगे, राइट? इसमें आई मीन but the problem with this is if you don't get this entire set, if you get this entire set, you'll get all the questions right. If you don't get, I think then there's a issue of choice, right? You will probably struggle, and there's a little bit of issue. But this 5 into 3 15 questions, I think everybody should have got. So if I go back and look at it and say कि 15 marks जिसका नहीं आया है, इसका मतलब serious problem है, right? I mean, if you have not done this third set, I think there's a serious problem in the way you must approach your LRDI itself. Quant, I thought was, I don't know how you felt it. It was a nice mix of uh, logic, uh, fairly challenging, I would say. At the same time, it is not mathematically very uh, difficult. You don't, I mean, you couldn't have simply solved questions using putting formula and getting the answers. But there were about 6, 7 questions that were straightforward. But there was a little bit of thinking type of questions in almost all of them. And no wonder, right? We see that the scores are have uh, I mean it's not people have not got right so easily. So this is about, we are saying that 13 to 15, our view while designing it was very good guys in quant should be able to do 16 to 18, and good guys should be able to do a 13 14, and above average should be able to do about 10 questions, and a below average, or I mean below that should be questions sub of 10. So that was the design in which we went about creating this mock. बहुत सारे क्वेश्चंस है, आसानी से हो जाएंगे. इनफैक्ट आई थिंक जीपी सर वाला जुगाड़ सॉल्यूशन शायद इसमें रिलीज हो जाएगा ट्यूसडे तक. बट मेरे हिसाब से आई थिंक बहुत सारे इसमें आसानी से क्वेश्चंस तो मेरे ख्याल से हो जाते हैं, राइट. एंड इफ यू आर बीन वेरी diligent in picking up this 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 7 threes are 21, right? I mean, had you been smart enough to identify these 7 questions, I'm sure that you would have done well. So there are a little bit of traps here and there. People will make mistakes. So I think those reds are essentially to indicate that the accuracies would have been a little lower in some questions. So broadly, this is what I had to discuss. So, let me get back to this. Okay. Uh, Very hard VRC. Good evening. Saini, it was around 1900 or 2000 uh, when we checked last, around 2 to 30, right? How do you calculate percentile for CL marks, right? I think we do it the way we would normally, but after a point in time, you see that the percentile, see, actually, the way you should actually look at percentile is when, for example, GMAT, how do you think they calculate percentile, right? So there is a, beyond a particular number, your percentile doesn't change much. For example, I'll give you, this is statistics, pure statistics, and uh, irrefutable proof in that, right? There might be which is why we say that there will be a little bit of changes here or there, maybe 0.5 percentile point. I'm answering Kuldeep's questions that um, percentile to be after a point in time, right? For example, we take the percentile as it appears, right? But beyond about 1500 to 1700, you will see the percentile hardly moves. So even if you give me a 7,000, 10,000 database, or compare it with a 2000 database, your percentile is not going to change. And this is the reality. You can actually statistically check it out, unless the bias is so high in terms of who are the people who are taking the test. Even in cat, you will also see the same thing is valid. Okay, anyway, what is, why so much difference at 80 percentile? Maybe because most of the test takers today are already above 70 percentile. That is why. See, Ashutosh, this is my why there is so much difference at 80 percentile. So I what's happening is, for example, when it comes to sets, RCs, the drops are going to be in chunks. If I suddenly drop the entire set or something, you'll find that uh, because the number of single questions is fewer, as a percentage of the entire paper, you will see that there will always be step drops at certain scores, right? You will not have the same kind of a difference in all. So I mean, this is my hypothesis कि 80 परसेंटाइल से ऊपर, इसका मतलब उस स्कोर पे आप अगर देखोगे uske, I mean, there are people who are not able to go beyond that. So at the different levels of preparation, I think you might jump one step. You say, okay, I'll do this set. That depends on your. Uh, so there is a broad theme that um, the scores will always move in a little bit of steps when you have fewer choices. But the number of grouped questions that you have, for example, the entire DI is a grouped question. RCs, you have got grouped questions. 16 plus 20, that's about 36 out of your 66 questions are grouped questions. So you find that you have only individual choices only in the rest of them, 30. So if the number of grouped questions, which is more than about 50% of the paper, you will always see a little bit bigger chunks drops in the. For example, if I look at the cats that were there prior to when we had let's say more number of questions, right? When you had 100 questions, you would see that the jump, for example, if you look at the last cat, right, 45 percentile is about 45 score is about 85 percentile, right? And if you go back to the cat of there's a 33% drop in the number of questions vis-a-vis 100. But if you look at the 85 percentile of the previous version of cat, right, there you wouldn't see that the 85 percentile would you would get at a score of the equivalent of 45, right? I mean, you will not get that. That's not the difference. So you 80 85 percentile 80 percentile used to be somewhere around 80 scores of 80. The reason being, you had more number of individual questions. The percentage of individual questions as a part of the entire paper is more. So what I'm saying is, suppose in DI you get 4 questions, 4 sets. I think your strategy, your scores will actually go up. At different percentile, the scores will go up. Yeah, set 3 at 5 questions, set 4 at 5 questions, Kuldeep. Yeah. How to avoid confusion between real choice and distorted choice? Maybe I think uh, one of the things that I do, Shashi. I mean, I don't know whether it works. Is kind of uh, negate the choices, check whether the choices would negate the question or not. But that works, right? Which means you're trying to argue against the choice. Is choice may against? See, normally you get stuck between two. So I think you need to look at those बारीकी से देखना पड़ेगा. Uh, I mean, if you are comfortable with the language, I'm sure you will hit the jackpot 50% of the cases. How to maximize score in quant? Give some attempt strategy for a very weak student in quant. I don't know how many of you. In my last session, I talked about using the question paper view to identify questions that you would like to do, right? And I don't know. I mean, did any of you try that out? I'm not sure whether uh, any of you guys were there in the last session, or how many of you were in the last session. Last session, I talked about GP sir will join. ठीक है, I think today is in Amritsar. So GP and Jijo, I'm sure you would miss them. So, um, Saksham, sorry, Sushant, uh, I don't know whether you looked at the option of looking at um, s- question paper format, right? So Sushant, Nidish, and Parvati, is the answer to the S? Uh, did you try out the question paper view, and that did it help? More importantly, to me, that's a more important question. Did it help you identify questions a little easier, and hence did it increase your attempts? Yeah. So does it help, Sushant? I don't know, because I mean it helps others. Some people it doesn't help others. I always do that. I do that for my quant. I do that for my DI too. Before I start my CAT paper, while solving it as a CAT paper, I shortlist based on the question paper format. Quickly write down on my rough sheet which are the round one questions that I'm going to do, and it takes. I think round one, round two के बारे में सोचता ही नहीं हूँ. तो मैं राउंड वन में बोल लिख देता हूँ कि क्वेश्चन नंबर 1, 7, 4, 15 ये करना चाहिए. इट हेल्प्स मी सेव a lot of my time. Shashi or Kuldeep, that's one thing that you can actually check. Deep says, found mostly questions in today's difficult but spend less time in easy questions as I got the exact question number. Correct, Sushant. I think this is likely to happen, right? Mostly questions. See, this paper was meant to be a little, uh, the LRDI was a little shade easier compared to the previous LRDIs. So the quant had to be a little shade, which means 2-3 questions जहाँ पे ज़्यादा सोचना पड़े, right? And this quant was designed uh, not to look like जहाँ पे quant जहाँ पे आप फॉर्मूला लगा दो आपको आंसर आ जाएगा. Sir, using question paper mode in quant spends about 4 minutes is just looking at the paper. See, Myron, you anyway are looking at those 4 minutes. If I do it one question by question, you are waiting for the easy question to appear before you decide कि अच्छा ये वाला question करना है. I am preempting this by saying that okay, if I look at this entire paper at one go, I can identify कि अच्छा these 4 questions are there. These are the ones that I'm going to do first. It helps me, as I said, to everyone his own strategy. I don't know what works for me, will it work for you? But to me, it looks very simple because that's the way you solve a paper if you're doing a question, paper based paper. So it makes a big difference to me. Okay. I found mostly questions. Today's question paper. Okay, that was Myron's answer. Deep to deep, how to improve the marks? 70. Dittrip, I don't know whether it is, if you can give me what is the breakup. You have to improve where? You have to improve in quant or you improve in DI or verbal. If I don't know which place I want to improve, as I said in one of the sessions, that if you don't have a place where you are actually looking down at all your errors that you have made, right? It's going to be. Um, I don't think it's going to be make much of a difference. If I, as Shivko, if I have to take a strategy, and I'm saying that if I don't know what kind of errors that I'm doing, if my error log does not indicate that this is my course of action, there's no way I can make corrections. So if please do a very thorough error analysis. I think it's a very critical part of any preparation. Yeah, Kuldeep, just try it out. Let me know. और प्राइम में ट्राई करो, ठीक है. डोंट जस्ट राइट इन वन पेपर एंड से कि इससे फर्क पड़ जाता है, राइट. कभी कभी आपको किसी नए स्ट्रैटेजी के लिए आपको एक दो मॉक्स में ट्राई करना पड़ेगा. प्राइम कैट्स में तो डेफिनेटली ट्राई करो. Atul says, my marks are fluctuating a lot. Why is I score better in one section, the other two sections suffer? How to solve this? Atul, I might sound a little pessimistic or whatever. I would always say that I would say that there are three sections that you have. So you will see that one section is going to be tough, one section moderate, one section is going to be easy. So कौन सा section easy है? There you will obviously score better. The whole idea is there a minimum score, minimum level that you have for each of the sections? To me, that is the most important. For example, if I say English verbal, I'm always going to get this 24. LRDA, I'm always going to get this 24. Quant, I'm always going to get this 24. So 72. To me, that is what you must be consistent with. Otherwise, there will always be ups and downs. They will be up. So what you cannot go below is some बिल्कुल वो जो बैरियर ब्रेक नहीं होना चाहिए, सपोर्ट वाला बैरियर. So that support barrier could be 20 or 24, whatever is that score that you are looking for in each of the sections. So that's what you must focus on. Deep says DILR 16, okay, 32 quant. VARC is 16, DILR is 32, quant. Yeah, Deep is the easiest thing for you to do. I think quant, I mean, DILR 32 and quant 22 to me looks a little. So quant is easiest. So for you to pick up quant, I think VARC I still think is consistent reading. That's the best that you can do. Look at all the errors that you're doing, note it down, see if you can make it better, right? And I'm sure that in the subsequent things we'll get a little more uh, Jijo also to get give you a little more feedback. But quant I think is very easy. Quant may identify, you have to do those topic wise, right, questions. Now 22 in quant looks a little low to me. I mean 8 minute mein, I mean 40 minute mein, if you're only doing about 8 9 questions, it tells me that you're still not comfortable with quant. So pick up the areas. I mean, don't leave any questions. So if you say that I'm going to do algebra for the next 10 days, just sit and do all the algebra questions. As I told you, don't leave any cat questions in the past 10 12 years. I think a lot of the questions, see, question might be look different, but the principles normally don't change much. I've not seen too much of absolutely new out of the world principles being introduced in cat. Everything is a hash of what was there. Questions might look different, that's all. We don't. Acha, there's one thing that I would like some of you section VARC scores is saying getting low day by day, right? Sir, can I can only solve two passages in 6 to 7 VA. How to increase speed to solve complete VRC paper? Nidish, I might be, I don't know your entire details, but my uh, diagnosis of somebody who comes to me with that kind of a feedback is that कि हो सकता है कि you don't have too much of क्या कहते हैं comfort with English as a language. I mean ज़्यादा पढ़ते नहीं हो, ठीक है? सिर्फ कैट के पेपर्स में पढ़ने से आई डोंट थिंक बहुत ज्यादा आई डोंट नो हाउ मच टाइम यू स्पेंड ऑन रीडिंग द ओनली वे टू इंक्रीज रीडिंग स्पीड इज रीडिंग there's nothing else I don't I mean I'm not aware of it if I don't read if I see I'll tell you I used to read 1 hour a day when I was preparing for cat because that was not my strongest section right though whatever I do my accuracy used to be pretty okay but I used to read slowly but the moment I used to get into this mood of doing 1 hour of reading every day right listening to things every day English it definitely made that significant 20 25% increase in my speed and that is when you add one more RC passage so two passages 6 to 7 questions means that your reading speed is a little slow your natural reading speed I'm not saying ki you rush I mean that's not reading speed your natural reading speed is a little low that can only go up when you read copiously voraciously every day before attempting any mock should the revision of previous mocks needs to be done thoroughly Sushant I have a very different view in this I don't think uh, solving a previous mock is going to help you I would definitely go back and look at my error log कि these are the mistakes that I did. I must make sure that I don't repeat the mistakes. मुझे पिछले वाले mock देने से क्या हुआ? How will it? The next mock is going to be a very different one. You must know what mistakes that you have done. You must actually look at the mistakes and say, "Oh, दोबारा ऐसे question आएगा. I'm not going to repeat the mistake." That's all I need to know. ऋषभ क्वांट में सिर्फ अरिथमेटिक पकड़ो अरिथमेटिक कर लो इस वाले पेपर में अगर सिर्फ 6 आई मीन उतना कम नहीं आना चाहिए मेरे हिसाब से क्वांट में इसका मतलब either you're completely DLR looks फिर भी okay which means I can sense that you're a logical guy if you're a logical guy there why can't you be a logical guy here I mean why couldn't you do the percentage questions that are there in quant why couldn't you do the normal uh, there's a lot of questions that you could have done so in my view I think that looks a little low for me. VARC only 4. Arya says, Sir, I confidently end up marking the wrong answers. What should I do about it? I can't shatter your confidence. You shouldn't, right? But Arya, jokes apart, do you know what mistakes that you're doing? Why do you do a mistake there must be some thread that is running through all your mistakes, which means you are, I mean, it could be that in the choice you're picking up a choice. I'm sure you must be narrowing down stuff to two choices. You're picking up a choice that looks, that is a over analysis, that is a oversimplification. I don't know what. You have to identify what is making your question wrong. Till the time you fix it, this confidently marking choices and getting it right, confidently marking choices and getting it right will not happen, because you will continue to be confident, because you are thinking that this is your answer, and I wouldn't want you to change that, because I think it's first thing is very critical to have is confidence. A lot of people don't have the confidence to mark a choice. So in that sense, I would say eh, you must spend at least 5 6 days looking at all the mistakes that you have done. Note down कि अच्छा ये वाला मिस्टेक क्यों है, मैंने ओवर एनालिसिस किया था, ये मिस्टेक क्यों है, अच्छा ये इसमें कुछ डिटेल्स मिस कर गया था, ये वाला क्यों है, इसमें इन्फ्रेंस का मतलब मुझे समझ में नहीं आया. So I think you must be very honest, brutally honest to yourself, and put all the mistakes into 4 different categories. And I think then that is where it will help. VARC is killing you. यार 63 in DILR and Quant. धीरज तुम क्या कर रहे हो? What is it that you're doing? What are you doing wrong? I mean, is this a consistent thing? Not able to go beyond a certain score? Because otherwise, like you could imagine that VARC was 30, you would have been the 99 percentile. That's where you can head to. Abhishek, did you find this particular mock? How many of you found this particular mock tougher in terms of quant than the previous mocks? अब धीरज वोकैबुलरी प्रॉब्लम कितने क्वेश्चंस में आते हैं? तो 7 तो वर्बल एबिलिटी वाला क्वेश्चन है, उसमें उसमें नहीं आ सकते 3 4? अच्छा, all of you found this quant a little tougher, okay? And the questions were not direct. Just a second. I think GP sir will join in. So quant was a little, yeah, it was a little indirect. Quant challenging, but DILR VRC was a easy moderate. I mean, that idea was quant was not supposed to be direct. ठीक है, GP, you had anything to say? I think the guys are missing you. Achha, GP is on tour today, right? And I think he'll be back. I think next Sunday onwards, I think Jijo will. Uh, Jijo, GP sir is traveling. Yeah, I mean you can see him. He's in a car. So how do you do error analysis for quant? Okay, fine. Error analysis for quant. I know if I will make a mistake, I'll say okay, I read this question wrong. That's one mistake. Two, I assumed that the question is going to ask me this, but I ended up finding this. Three, I got this concept wrong. Right? So, ठीक है, GP. Maybe GP, you can join in.
Yeah, Shivu.
So, any comments on this?
No, yeah, Shivko, I have not seen the what the students are saying इसमें, and unfortunately मेरी अभी class चल रही थी in अमृतसर, so I got delayed. Class लंबी खिंच गई में. But कैसा था? How have the students done this में?
तो
I understand English में लोगों की हालत खराब हुई है and DI अब few students are not happy with the fact कि इसका structure थोड़ा सा अलग हो गया.
हाँ,
Hmm,
तो but I think DALR
hmm,
scores have been a little better. So I'll try sharing this. One
hmm,
second,
hmm.
I'll share the screen.
Because here the students were saying they could do it, but they were initially a little shocked with the structure. And what I told them was, end of the day, you have to get used to all kind of structures. Last year, no one could have said whether it is going to be 5 into 4 or 4, 4, 6, 6, or will it be 20 or 22 questions. So, as a student, you have to be ready with all kind of patterns and structures.
So broadly, this is what it's been in GP.
Uh-huh.
So this is at about 6 p.m. or something.
Right, right,
तो DALR वही है कि बिल्कुल कैट के आसपास है, बट वही है नीचे
Mhm.
वाला जो 80 85 परसेंटाइल 90
Mhm.
वाले में एक दो क्वेश्चंस का फर्क है, राइट.
Right.
देन
It's not a major issue, I would say.
क्वांट में लोगों की दे आर सेइंग इट इज अ लिटिल टफ.
Acha. So
हाँ.
tomorrow I will be recording my Jugaad solution because आज मैं घूमते फिरते पेपर किया है मैंने. So I will I
हाँ.
will I will share that because मेरे को उतना tough नहीं लगा. Yeah. So
हाँ,
to my mind
ये
there were just
क्वेश्चन
two questions
क्वेश्चन
which
में
were
थोड़ा
difficult.
दिमाग लगने वाला था शायद, पता नहीं. So that's one feeling. All of them are saying, a lot of them are saying, this quant was
Mhm.
not direct, so they found it a little more tougher.
नहीं, let me just pull out the paper क्योंकि मैं बैठ के इसी को कर रहा था जब. Okay. हम्म.
So
You
maybe I
can
think
see one. हाँ, हम्म.
they are waiting for your Jugaad solutions, and also uh,
हाँ, वो कल मैं
I,
रिकॉर्ड कर दूंगा because unfortunately I am traveling. So, but good thing is I've done the paper. Because I've done the paper, I can definitely record it tomorrow in the office. So, कल शाम तक it should get uploaded. Mm.
ठीक है.
And ठीक है. But yes, my suggestion to students is एक बार फिर से पेपर को देखो. उतना मुश्किल नहीं है जितना people have made it to be. Yeah, count on cat 10 na. Is cat 10 na? Count on 10 na, Shivku?
हाँ हाँ जी.
Yes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. क्या कहाँ है यार शिवकू?
हाँ, तो मुझे तो लगा कि आ, अच्छे बच्चे
12,
तो 16 प्लस कर लेंगे,
13,
बहुत ही अच्छे
14.
वाले. इसमें 10 12 तो है.
शिवकू एग्जैक्टली 16 सवाल दिख रहे हैं मुझे जो which are doable. There are 2 3 more questions which are possibly doable with some amount of effort. But you're right. I would be disappointed if people have not done at least 10 to 12 questions.
सो हाउ
Hmm,
डिड
hmm,
जीपी
hmm.
सर्स बैकग्राउंड चेंज सो सडनली? शायद कार से आके
हाँ, मैं कार से अब घर पे पहुंच गया हूँ. आई एम विद PLI. आई एम राइट नाउ इन अमृतसर. आई एम विद नितिन इन हिज होम. So आज अभी पहले कार में था उसके साथ. So obviously उसमें लाइट वाइट का इशू था. Yeah.
ठीक है.
Okay.
So
But yes, I think let's wait till tomorrow, guys, and I'm sure you'll find that at least 3 4 questions were doable for each one of you.
so I'll just take maybe one or couple of questions I'll take. One is how to do error analysis for quant.
Mhm.
Parvati, what I would do is, if I were to pick errors, I must know what kind of errors that I'm doing. So to me, that's a part of my analysis. तो अगर मैं कोई एरर करता हूं बिकॉज कॉन्सेप्चुअल एरर है, मैं तो वो लिख लूंगा कहीं पे कि अच्छा ये वाला कॉन्सेप्ट समझ में नहीं आया. अगर कोई एरर है कि अच्छा मैंने अज्यूम कर लिया है कि दिस इज व्हाट इज टू बी आस्क्ड, राइट, एंड आई सी दिस इज रिपीटिंग माई सेल्फ, देन आई विल से कि बस क्वेश्चन ठीक से पढ़ लो. बिकॉज एवरी एरर विल हैव इट्स ऑब्वियस वे टू मिटिगेट इट. तो उसमें so I would always know what kind of errors. The same is true with English. You must know what error is this. So when I'm talking about error analysis, I think all of you have your own way of doing it. I must know whether I misread the question. I did as, even you will call it a silly mistake, right? 3 plus 4 is equal to 8 लिख के आ गए हो, या uh, you misread the question, took the data wrong, और it could be the एक concept समझ में नहीं आया, फिर भी आप तुक्का लगा रहे हो. रैंडम तुक्के को मैं कभी अटेम्प्ट ही नहीं मानूंगा, right? So you shouldn't count it. So ये find out which errors are there. There are things that you got conceptually wrong. I wouldn't say, then I will go back and at least revise that. So if I don't know what kind of mistakes I am doing, and you have done 10 mocks, say 10 CDCs till now, about 11 primes or 12 primes if you have already done the 12th one. If you have done so many without having a good database of what errors you are doing, I think, to me, the whole purpose of analysis is lost.
In fact,
So
Shipku, I will say one of the first things I would look at in a paper is which are the questions I should not have attempted. And I'm sure by now students know my definition of attempt is question in which I have spent reasonable time. So if I spend 2 minutes in a question and left that question without marking an answer, it is still an attempt for me. So identify whether that was a question you should have attempted or not. Obviously, you should not have attempted if you are weak conceptually in that question, or you could not understand that question and just said, okay, let me try doing this question. That is a question you should not have attempted. And if you say the answer is yes, I should have attempted, then I will go and see what was the reason of error. The error could be, as you said, it is silly mistake. The error could also be, I know how to do this kind of question, but I get confused in some parts. Then it's a question of revision for me. Those kind of questions which I know by and large how to solve them, but I get confused or I make mistakes. Those are my questions for revision. So to me, there are two or three things just to repeat. One, was it a question I should or should not have I should not have attempted? Second thing, is it a question of revision? And third is, why did that silly mistake happen? Why is it? And as you said, Shivku, did I read it wrong? What was the reason for that, and so on and so forth. Yeah.
Anusmita is saying, sir, do we need to revise the errors made in previous mocks for VARC? मुझे तो वो, but मुझे तो इतना, I mean, I don't personally think that it's going to help by, but if I had attempted the mock again as another mock, which means the passages that I have left out or the passages that I had done, if I had done it again and got things right, I think that's an assurance for me. But looking at what errors that you did is not probably going to help you much, because it's going to be a completely new passage. But where it could help is, again, I'm saying, looking at the errors. If I didn't understand the meaning of inference, the question is saying, what is the inference, right? What do you conclude? If I, by virtue of looking at the previous errors, and I get a better sense of what these words mean, it will help me in the next. But reading the same passage again, it's not going to help you. It's, I mean, it's just to, um, I mean, it's just
Revision
a,
will be helpful in verbal. Revision will be helpful at best in parajumbles and odd statement. Beyond that, I don't see too much point in revising. Okay, but if you think it helps you in some way, then that's fine.
it might make sense for you to go back and look at the passage that you did in prime mock 1 and you got things right, because in this journey of about 10 mocks or 12 mocks or 20 mocks, depending on where you are, I'm sure that there are some things that you have learned, and the way you would attempt the previous mocks, right? I think it would have, I believe it would have made a drastic difference, your approach to looking at choices. So a mock that I took in the month of July, especially for verbal, this may not be helpful in quant, but verbal का RC मैं वो पढ़ के अगर मैं अभी ठीक कर रहा हूँ, मेरे ख्याल से it will give me a sense of confidence कि अच्छा मुझे समझ में आया. So in that sense I think it will be helpful. Suyash कहता है, sir, I recently started doing almost all questions in VRC. The scores in 3 mocks were 43, 11, 13. I'm not sure if I should continue this or go back to old plan of leaving one RC where my average was 25. Suyash, what worked was I don't what do you say? Don't kind of ditch the time tested
Yeah,
formula.
but इसमें जो है, I'm a little confused इसमें शिवकू.
हाँ,
43, 11 and 13. 43 क्यों हुआ? And 43 से जब 11 और 13 गया, what changes did you make? It is not a question of attempting all passages. In attempting all passages, how did your behavior change? Because 43 to 11 is a drastic reduction. 25 to 43 is also a good jump. It's a reasonably big jump, but 43 to 11 is a very, very big drop. So I would be interested in knowing how did you change your behavior in the paper when you moved into 43? And again, what was the change in your behavior when you came down to 11?
that's the point where I am still confused. It says Suyash. ठीक है
Suyash, इसमें
सुयश.
एक काम करो, ये देखो कि the errors which happened, what is the cause? What is the reason? Was it you did not understand the passage and or you misread the question or the something? If it is a question of misreading, then check out where did you waste time? Did you waste time anywhere? Because of which you ended up reading faster than normal? Yeah.
So Myron says, after reading a passage, when we start looking at the question, is it worth going back to the passage for each individual question, or should we directly mark answer based on what we learned in the passage? I think every passage has its own character. कभी I mean the big conceptual things में शायद वापस जाके कोई फायदा नहीं है, बट जहाँ पे डिटेल है वहाँ पे शायद जाना चाहिए. मुझे नहीं लगता कि एक फॉर्मूला वर्क्स, राइट?
हाँ,
तो
that's right. शिवको इसको just मैं add कर देता हूँ to what you said. If it is a conceptual question, comprehension based question, inferential question, reasoning based question, going back to the passage will not help
is
us at
not going
all.
to help. Absolutely.
If it's a factual question, who was the person who was referred to in that paragraph, I will go back and verify. So if it's a factual, specific, detailed question, yes, going back to the passage can be helpful. But if it's a comprehension or critical reasoning or inference-based question, जाके कोई फायदा नहीं होगा, time waste करोगे, उसके बाद you'll come back equally, if not more confused.
I think we'll end with this. एक और question है. I have attempted 14 mocks and getting not more than 20. Is there any jugaad, as GP sir says? Jugaad jugaad always works. थोड़ा
ये
knowledge भी
ये
थोड़ा
ये
जुगाड़
verbal की
करना
बात कर
पड़ेगा.
रहा है,
हाँ?
verbal की बात कर रहा
नहीं
है. He's
नहीं
talking
हाँ,
about verbal.
वर्बल वर्बल का, हाँ नहीं वर्बल का
Yeah,
नहीं, ये मेरे क्या पता नहीं, ये ओवरऑल की बात कर रहा है. आई थिंक इज
देखो
टॉकिंग अबाउट
ओवरऑल
ओवरऑल.
14 है तो जुगाड़ नहीं चाहिए. Then he's just messing up all the sections. देन इसको बोलना है मेरे को हर सेक्शन में खाली 6 सवाल करने हैं, he'll end up with 90 percentile.
हाँ, फिटनेस फैक्ट्स ओवरऑल में अगर 20 है, तुमको ये डिसाइड करना पड़ेगा. पहले ही चीज है कि तुम यू गेट 4 क्वेश्चंस राइट इन एवरी, आई मीन 5 क्वेश्चंस राइट इन एवरी सेक्शन. दैट्स योर फर्स्ट बैरियर. उसके बाद बात करते हैं. पहले वहां पे पहुंचते हैं, उसके बाद बात. ओके, लास्ट VARC 20, DILR 30, QA 18. I am never able to attempt the whole QA in any mock. I make strategy but never able to follow that. I feel it's because of stress. How to best handle this?
देखो पहली चीज शिव को आई डोंट लाइक द वर्ड स्ट्रैटेजी एट ऑल.
Uh,
मेरे हिसाब से एनी पेपर हैज ओनली वन स्ट्रैटेजी. आई थिंक दिस वर्ड स्ट्रैटेजी इज वेरी 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 वाइडली अब्यूज्ड. There's only one strategy. If you know how to solve, please do so. If you don't know, leave it. If you are doubtful, leave it. To me, there's no second strategy. ठीक है, तो strategy की please चिंता मत करो, because strategy will not help you. The only strategy is this. Okay? Now coming back to this, you're not able to do well, but after the paper, if you're able to do it, that means you need to look at where have you wasted time. You are not able to complete the paper. Obviously, you are wasting some time somewhere by attempting questions which you should not be looking at in the paper. Okay? And the best source for you to do that is look at your last 5 papers, last 5 mock. उसमें देखो कौन से क्वेश्चन थे जिनमें तुमने टाइम वेस्ट किया है. Any question in which you spend 1.5 minute plus and not marked an answer, that is your time waste question. Okay? I'm giving you 1.5 minutes to spend 90 seconds. 90 seconds is more than enough time to understand whether you can do it or not. Okay? And if you look at your past papers, you'll be able to identify there will be a pattern. The pattern could be specific question types. The pattern could be a specific topic. The pattern could be something else, but you will see a pattern definitely. Okay? And अगर stress है तो ठीक है, थोड़ा सा रिलैक्स करो एंड ये याद कर लो कि एंड ऑफ द डे, even if you do 7 questions or 8 questions, okay, look at it this way. If you are getting 17, 18 marks, you are doing only 6 right. How many wrong are you doing? Okay? So अगर तुम्हारे ज्यादा गलत हो रहे हैं, and you are picking up questions which are time consuming, then that is where you'll have to look at changing the way you work. But data बहुत कम है to comment at this point of time.
तो अभिनव, एक मीन बहुत ज्यादा स्ट्रेटेजी के बारे में मत सोचो. जस्ट लाइक जीपी सर सेड, नो, आई थिंक द वन सिंपल 7 राइट एंड 8 रॉन्ग, इसका मतलब, आई मीन,
ये बात
तुम
है.
तुम इसका मतलब स्ट्रेस नहीं है, तुम्हारा कुछ और है ना?
नहीं,
तो
स्पीड मार रहा है. इसको
हाँ,
पेपर
स्पीड
कंप्लीट
मार रहा
करना
है.
और कुछ नहीं है.
देखो, इससे अच्छा है तुम डिसाइड कर लो कि मुझे इंस्टेड ऑफ गेटिंग 18 मार्क्स आफ्टर अटेम्प्टिंग 7 राइट 15 अटेम्प्ट्स, it makes sense for you to say कि let me attempt only 10 to 11 questions, get everything right. It makes more sense
शिवको,
to do that.
जस्ट टू रिपीट, इसके अंदर 7 attempt 8 wrong मीन स्पीड मार रहा है, पेपर कंप्लीट करने की कोशिश कर रहा है, उस चक्कर में खुद का नुकसान कर रहा है. पेपर नहीं
बिल्कुल.
कंप्लीट करना, सवाल छोड़ने की आदत डाल देगा. And Shivku is saying he's not able to complete the paper. I think that is his issue. He's trying to complete the paper. In trying to complete the paper, he's messing up his paper. You don't have to complete the paper. You have to leave questions to complete the paper. Which means question number 22 तक पहुंचने के लिए रास्ते में 10 सवाल छोड़ने हैं is what you need to tell yourself.
अभिनव, तुम सीबीएसई का पेपर नहीं ले रहे हो, ये याद रख लेना बस. ठीक है. आई थिंक we will stop it here, right? Maybe one last question to GP sir. GP sir, I am unable to solve DILR sets outside the mock. I am unable to solve them during the mock, even when I find them to be on the easier and familiar end. I just don't know what to do. Anshita.
Okay. If you are
I
still not able to solve after the mock also, then it's a knowledge issue.
I did all you have
तो
advised करके कह रही है. ठीक.
अच्छा, इसको या शिव को ask her to give me a call.
Yeah,
Not
Anshita.
today,
So you heard,
tomorrow.
yeah, you heard what GP sir said. Give him a call. Maybe you can speak to him personally. Chalo, guys. Bye. See you. Good night. I'll stop
Good
it.
night. Bye.